Fantastic. So you guys can hear me. I can see your responses coming in. Wonderful. First of all, happy Thanksgiving, folks. I know it was last night, but I think everyone's trying to recover today. I know my waistline certainly is. So let me go ahead and get us kicked off. My name is Eric. I'm going to be the presenter for VantagePoint. So obviously, I think we already know this and we've just covered this, but trading involves a substantial degree of risk. Please only trade with capital that you can afford to lose and protect that capital at all times. As I go through this this session with you, I'm going to be introducing some comments that a couple of our customers have made. I just want you to understand that these are, their experiences. It doesn't mean they're going to be your experiences, and the reality is some of them are atypical. So again, just trade with money that you can afford to lose and protect it. So let me give you a quick introduction into who I am. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm caught in COVID just like you folks, working at home now, but I've got a pretty extensive corporate background, and I've got over 27 years in the financial markets. Now I serve as the business development manager for VantagePoint. What I'm going to be sharing with you today is something that can show you how to find repeatable patterns in the market that can really be a game changer. The first question that I always get when I expose people to the technology is they're like, this looks pretty impressive, but does it work like this all the time? The answer is yes, it does. I could go through all of the different testimonials that I have. We have hundreds of these on our website, but I'm not going to bore you with that because frankly, you don't have time for it, neither do I. I want to show you just one real quick. Let me bring him up. He's actually the very last one right here. Bruce writes in and says, thank you for your patience with this rookie. A home run, my first time at bat, and that will return all the monies paid and a little extra to boot. He goes on to say, thank you. Did I say thank you so very much? Folks, I got to tell you, it feels amazing to be able to put technology in people's hands that literally empowers them and can help them change the game. So you're going to want to pay attention to this whole thing as I go through it, because I'm going to be dropping a lot of gems for you. So take some notes, and if you have questions for me, ask questions as well. And when I look up, I'm on multiple monitors, but when I see your questions come in, I'll address them. So my first thing is I'm going to pose a question to you, and it's more of a rhetorical question, if you will. What would you say if I told you we have a software tool that's using artificial intelligence and it can forecast price movement of a particular market or a particular security over the next 1 to 3 days? What could you do with information like that? And I'll take that a step further. What if I also told you the same tool that I'm talking about has been documented and verified for its accuracy, and it's up to 87.4%? That's what I'm going to show you guys, so pay close attention. First thing I'm going to do is let me give you a little bit of proof. Look at the chart that's on your screen real quick, and I'm going to get into the how and the what that we're looking at, but the biggest question I get is, hey, with accuracy like that, were you able to forecast the reversal before COVID? Folks, you're looking at it. On February 21st, that is precisely what VantagePoint did. And again, I'm going to show you how we were able to do this. But I think a lot of us aren't here just to protect our capital. A lot of us are trying to make money. So let me give you an example of what that looks like. Here's an example where you could have made just a couple of trades in Tesla and made over 120% just by trading the stock. The key there, though, is knowing which stock to get involved with first, and then more importantly, when to be involved. And again, that's what this training is about. So let me go and I want to switch gears just for a moment. I used to skip over this stuff, but I think it's really important. So I want to acknowledge the men that have made this possible. You see that gentleman on the right-hand side? His name is Lou Mendelson. He is the founder of VantagePoint. He started our organization back in 1979. So we're a 41-year-old technology company. And I think a lot of you, especially if you're business owners, you'll agree with this statement. You don't last 41 years in any industry unless you're doing something incredibly well. With Lou, if you've ever done any type of strategy back testing in the markets, you owe that to Lou Mendelson, because he created back testing software and he was the first person to release it to the general public. He literally started the industry. But then he switched gears and he realized he could do a lot better. So what I'm going to be sharing with you is not something for back testing. It's actually using artificial intelligence. And he learned about AI when he was at Carnegie Mellon. I'm going to fast forward for a moment because he is no longer directly running the company. He's slowed down a little bit, but he's done something amazing for the man on the left-hand side of the screen. That's Lane Mendelson. rather than me tell you everything there is to say about Lane, because a lot of you already know who he is, I've got a quick video, and it literally only runs about a minute or so, folks. But head over to your sound and turn your speakers up just to make sure you can hear this. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you, and then as soon as it's done, I'll be right back, and we'll really crank this thing up. So here it goes. Let me go ahead and load this up for you.
Lane Mendelson's company has developed a way to transform the lives of people.
Lane Mendelson, the president of VantagePoint Software.
Lane Mendelson.
Lane Mendelson.
Lane Mendelson, president of VantagePoint AI.
Joining me in the studio today is Lane Mendelson.
And with me today, Lane Mendelson, the president of VantagePoint AI.
Your artificial intelligence software was able to predict the January market drop.
Your company forecasted that the tech stocks erased all the gains for the year.
What's the criteria you use at VantagePoint when you look at a stock?
We're doing a very advanced form of pattern recognition using artificial intelligence.
My company's been involved with artificial intelligence for 30 years. This is the future.
You're talking about thousands and thousands of data points being analyzed every single day. A human could not do this. If you're not analyzing all of those other factors, you're not seeing the full picture. To really gain an edge in today's global markets, you have to have a global approach.
VantagePoint Software 的主席 Len， 那他和我们一起分享一下股票投资。
It's all about having the odds in your favor. Our focus is the technology.
In the last 10 years, we've spent over $10 million in research and development, developing the technology.
We actually have been forecasting the retail stocks to go up for about a week now.
A couple of days ago, we said tech stocks were going to start to go up, and look what today happened. I mean, the Dow had a tremendous day today.
Our philosophy is if we can't predict it with a very high degree of accuracy, why bother? There are so many other stocks that we can forecast with such a high degree of accuracy.
And one of the things that I like about you personally, Lane, is that you really are a family guy.
I think that it's most important that that you spend time with family, you teach values. My daughter knows all of our core values for our company, and the first one is integrity.
We're going to continue to refine, develop, and make this product so that everybody in the world who wants to have financial freedom can easily benefit from it.
Okay, folks, let me ask a question because I had a lot of people say they could not hear. If you were able to hear the video, would you just give me a quick yes? Hopefully you weren't just watching an image without any sound. We run into this problem from time to time. Okay, so these are isolated, then most of you are seeing this. Okay, perfect. So if you weren't able to hear that, basically Lane Mendelson's been all over the networks, you know, in the news. And he's going on, you know, he's going out there and telling people what the markets are going to do ahead of time based on the artificial intelligence. And we're talking about advanced pattern recognition. So, but I'll bring you up to speed, everyone, so don't worry about that. This is the part, though, where I have some important questions for you. So the first thing I need to do is I need to gauge my audience. I'm put in a unique situation today. You see, the information that I'm going to deliver to you, it normally takes me about an hour and a half to do it. I'm going to condense this. So I need to understand you a little better so I know what I can leave out and what I might need to elaborate on. So on a scale of 1 to 10, give me an understanding of where your current knowledge is as a trader. 1 could mean you're brand new, 10 can mean you're an expert and there's really nothing for you to learn. In fact, you're questioning why you're even on this webinar. Where do you rate yourself right now, folks? Let me just I'm looking for a ballpark. Okay, keep them coming in. All right, wow, we get some really expert level traders in here. This is outstanding, good. Got a lot of 8s, 7s, a 9. Okay, good. So this is a more advanced group. That's good for me to know. My next question, what asset class do you primarily trade? Give me a feel for that. Is it stocks, futures, commodities, currencies, ETFs? And by the way, everything that I just mentioned, we forecast for with a very high degree of accuracy. Okay, lots and lots of stock and options traders in here. Got some Forex, some futures. Let's see, options on all. Okay, so primarily equities. So here's the thing, regardless of what it is you're trading, I want you to understand that what I'm going to be sharing with you, you can go apply this to every different asset class, okay? Here's a big question. If I asked you what you would like to improve more, and I'll give you a multiple choice, would you find that you're having more of a struggle finding the best opportunities to trade, or would you say that it's more on the timing side? What are you struggling with the most? That's really what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I'm getting both timing, both more timing on the exits or the closing. Sure, okay. Okay, patience. Yeah, I can certainly understand that. Okay, good. So that's good to know. Now, and by the way, I'm going to show you how we can fix both of those today. I'll make that very easy. Last question, but it's a big one. I need to make sure that we're all aligned and that we're all on the same page. How many of you would agree that the markets today are global, that they're interconnected, and that they're influencing one another? Just give me a yes or a no if you agree with that question. Okay, fantastic. Wow. All right, so we're all on the same page. Good, then you're definitely in the right room. You're gonna get a lot of value out of this, and here's why. You see, the markets are different than they used to be. I think everyone knows that, right? I mean, we are a digital world now. Everything is so plugged in, it's impossible for anything to remain isolated because the news is being shared instantly across the planet. It changes our opinions about what's going on. The problem there, though, is we're now in a global market, but we're not using a global approach. So I'm gonna show you a way that we can fix that. So if you have a pen and a notepad, write this down. I'm giving you literally a hidden gem. Global intermarket analysis. Now, folks, this is one of the highest forms of technical analysis you're ever going to do. It's also one of the best. I know people don't like to waste time, so instead of me showing you a couple of let's say tricks or tips, I've given you just the best. I'm putting my best foot forward here. This is intermarket analysis, and let me explain what it means. Intermarket analysis means being able to study the relationships between connected markets, okay? So it's got a very simple definition. The problem, though, is when people attempt to do intermarket analysis, they tend to get a little overwhelmed, and I'm going to show you why. Let me put a couple of charts up on the screen real quick. I've got AMD and the E-mini NASDAQ up. Hopefully everyone can see that. And I'm going to start slow and ramp up for a moment. So I want you to know or notice on these two charts that they're both trending in the same direction basically at the same time. There's a parallel relationship taking place here, which means these two markets are influencing one another. The reason this is important, folks, if I were thinking about trading AMD, I wouldn't touch it unless I checked in to see what the NASDAQ was doing first, because I know that there's an influence there. Now, let me give you something a little more substantial, something you could really sink your teeth into. Look at this one. Here's the financial sector ETF and Bank of America. Look at these charts closely for a moment, because I want you to notice just how similar they are. In fact, they're almost carbon copies. And the reason this is so important is there are markets out there just like this that exist on everything that you're currently trading. Wouldn't you like to know what they were? Because, you know, if I were thinking about trading Bank of America, knowing that that ETF on top of it was having that big of an impact, there's no way I would make a trade until I first checked in to see what the other one was doing. And that's what we're talking about here. This intermarket analysis is being able to not only identify these patterns, but to figure out how they're influencing one another. So there's another type of pattern that I want to touch on real quick, though, because it's a big one. And it's called an inverse relationship. Now, I'm giving you just a textbook example because generally speaking, gold and the S&P don't mix well, right? It's like water and oil. They usually move in the opposite direction. And the reason I'm sharing this type of a relationship with you is right now, regardless of what it is you're trading, there are other things out there. If those other things start to move up in value, it's going to have a negative impact on what you just bought. But if those other things were to go down in value, it would have a positive impact on what you just bought. Now, if we think back to just elementary school and we think about cause and effect relationships, if you can look at one thing and you know it's going to have an impact on something else, wouldn't you look at that first? And that's what this is about, right? But the problem here, again, as I said, that this is incredibly challenging, is that most people can't do this because there's too much information out there. And that's why I put an iceberg up on the screen. Let me give you an example of why this is here. In my world, this iceberg represents what's truly driving and impacting the things that we trade. But just like an iceberg, you can only see the tip of it, right? You can only see the surface. And the reality is that only accounts for about maybe 10 or 15% of what's really there. You see, the bulk of that ice is hidden. You can't see it unless you're using modern technology. But the same thing holds true with our trades. And what I mean by that is when it comes to doing research, we're only looking at the influences that make sense to us, the logical connections. But we can only process so much information. We're human, right? The reality is we're missing what's really going on out there, because the bulk of what's truly driving the very things that we trade on a daily basis is beneath the surface. And without using the right type of equipment, we're never going to see it. I use this iceberg because it reminds me a lot of the Titanic. They saw the tip of the iceberg and they steered away from it, but they still gouged the ship into what was beneath the surface. The same thing happens with our trades. You see, sometimes it's not what we're paying attention to that's making these stocks or whatever it is you're trading go up or down. Sometimes it's what we're not paying attention to. So I'm going to show you a way that we can actually fix this. So let me introduce the artificial intelligence to you, and we're going to have some fun. All right, so give me 1 second, folks. This is VantagePoint. Now I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Bear with me for 1 sec. All right. I'm going to explain what we're looking at on the screen in a moment, because I'm going to teach you a repeatable pattern that you can go out and make a lot of money with. But first, I want to do some real live intermarket analysis. Now, and by the way, folks, if you look at the interface here, very clean, very streamlined, but these are all of the different markets that we forecast for. You'll see futures up here, Forex, exchange traded funds, US stocks. We even forecast for Canadian stocks and cryptocurrencies. But right now, what I want to do is I want to do some live intermarket analysis. So just to get you to wrap your mind around what I'm talking about, we're going to analyze an airline stock. And I'm going to go to my favorite, which is Southwest Airlines. Now, let me explain what I'm having the software do right now. The software is looking at Southwest and all of the historical information that it has on it, and it's comparing Southwest to 10,000 individual markets globally. Guess what it's looking for, folks? It's seeking out those patterns, those relationships that we were just talking about a few screens ago. And what it's doing is it looks at Southwest, compares it to 10,000 markets, and when it finds these various different patterns, what it's able to do is mathematically stack rank them so that it can determine which of these patterns are going to have the biggest influence or impact on Southwest. So what it will then do from that point is it's going to take 10,000 markets and reduce it down to the top 31 markets that have been mathematically and scientifically proven to have the largest degree of impact. Wouldn't you like to know what that is? Watch this, folks. This is what it's found. Now, let me grab my drawing tool for just a moment so that I can make some sense out of what you're looking at. And I'm going to walk you through this. Let me make sure I've got a color on the screen that you guys can all see. And when I say guys, I do mean guys and gals. I'm sorry for the slang. I'm trying to correct that in my language. All right, so here we go. Here's Southwest. So here's what I'm explaining, folks. What you're looking at right now is the iceberg. This is what's driving Southwest. And a lot of this will surprise you. Some of it won't, though. So let's look at some surface level relationships. Here's American Airlines right here. Obviously, an airline company is going to drive another airline company. In fact, if you look here, you'll notice that it's keyed in on Alaska. It's looking at United Air. It's looking at Delta. And it's also looking at JetBlue. Now, you may be looking at this going, well, I could have figured that out, Eric. But here's the reality. Could you? And here's why I say this. Out of a list of the top 31 markets that are going to have the biggest impact, would you have chosen these 5 airlines? Why not 8? Maybe only 2. You see, the software, because it's looking for these big influences, it's saying no. As far as airlines are concerned, this is what's driving Southwest. But it's shifted gears, because look at this, folks. It's also looking at other transport companies. Here's PAM Transportation. That's a trucking company, yet that's impacting Southwest. Here's a railroad company, Norfolk Southern. Would you ever think in a million years to look at Norfolk Southern if you were looking at Southwest? Because I can tell you, if we're all being honest with one another, and we are, that would never hit my radar. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just looking at transport companies. You'll notice it's looking at the industrial spider. It's looking at a couple of ETFs that are in that sector, like the Dow Jones Transportation Average, S&P Transportation Spider. But then it shifts gears. Look at this. It's looking at fuel, natural gas. It's looking at light sweet crude oil. That's driving the transportation sector. So clearly that has to be there. But then it shifts gears and it looks at other things like treasury notes for interest rates. It's looking at global currencies. Look at this. It's looking at the Japanese yen. It's looking at the euro. It's looking at the dollar down here. It's even looking at gold. But here's where this gets interesting, folks. Look down here on the very bottom right-hand side. I'll draw a big arrow up to it. Encompass Health. Folks, that's in the healthcare sector. Why is there a healthcare related stock in the top 31 markets of what's driving Southwest? You see, I show this stock all the time, and I've been doing this for a long time. I can never figure out what Encompass has to do with Southwest. But here's why I said that what drives what you're trading is very similar to an iceberg. You see, this is not a surface level relationship, but it's still there. And if you're not analyzing these things, again, this is the ice that took the Titanic down. So in Southwest's, in this situation, if Southwest were to start falling in value, this could be the culprit right here. But you see, as traders, we would never even pay attention to this stuff. And that's what the software is doing, right? So the artificial intelligence is, by using advanced pattern recognition, it's able to go out and find all this stuff for us. We don't have to do any of the heavy lifting. So I'm going to take this a step further, and then I'm going to open up for some questions in just a second. But So now that you know that it's finding the top 31 markets, what it will do for each of these markets is it's going to figure out, will this market make Southwest go up? Will this one make it go sideways? Will this one make it go down? So it's figuring out the directional bias. Then it's weighing each one of these markets as well. And the reason I say that is something like, like the euro up here. Maybe this has a smaller degree of impact than something like light sweet crude. So what the software is doing is not only does it find the markets, but then it figures out the directional bias, then it gives or applies a specific weighting to each one of these markets. Starting to understand why I say that a lot of people never even attempt to do this, because there's not enough time in the day, the week, the month, even in a year to do this type of analysis. But with AI, we can do this. Now here's the best part, and I think you're really gonna like this. Here's my commitment to you. We're gonna have a lot of fun this morning because I'm gonna show you how to take all of this information that I've just covered on this screen, and I'm gonna show you how you can look at a single chart and literally within, I'm gonna say 4 or 5 seconds, you're gonna be able to tell me with up to an 87.4% accuracy rating what that stock is about to do. When's the last time you could look at a chart and have that type of confidence? So again, that's my commitment. Before we're done, and I'll test you on it, you're gonna be able to look at a chart and within 4 or 5 seconds, you're gonna be able to tell me with a very, very high degree of confidence and accuracy whether something's gonna go up or down. And that, my friends, is a game changer for a lot of people. Now, I realize this is probably the first time some of you are even seeing intermarket analysis in action, right? You've heard about it, but you've never seen it. If this idea is already starting to make sense and you're starting to see how this could really give you an edge in your trading and you want to learn more about this, here's what I'm going to invite you to do. We're open today. Head over to your questions box. Just type in your first name and your telephone number, and don't worry, no one else can see your contact information, folks. It's just the panelist. But if you type in your name and phone number, what I'll do for you is when we're finished or when this event's finished, we'll have one of our software experts reach out to you. They'll be able to answer any questions that you have. Because when I get into the proof aspect of this, a lot of you are going to want to get your hands on the technology. So I just want to give you a way where we can start that communication. So again, if this is starting to make sense, or at any time during the webinar, if you say, you know what, this is something that I'd really like to learn more about, just drop your name and phone number in, and as I said, I'll have one of our software experts reach out to you, okay? John, I see the never answer my phone. I'm the same way. So I don't know if we'll email anything to you, John, unless we know specifically what you're looking for, but I'll have someone reach out via email if we need to. Patty, I see you as well, and Jerry, thank you so much. So I'll have someone reach out to you when we're finished, folks. So let me go ahead and close this down, and we're gonna start talking about the charts, okay? We're gonna do that in just a moment. But first, here's my question. I have some charts that are up here. I've got Groupon, Applied Materials, SPY, and Flowers, so that should be perfect for the amount of time that we have. My question for you folks is, if you're not using AI, what are you using to identify these trades? And this is where I think that some of you are going to agree that you're probably using what I call the usual suspects. By the way, Darwin, I have your number as well. Thank you. So folks, are you using any of these to help you make these timing decisions or your trading decisions? I'm just curious. We call them the usual suspects, and this is just a partial list, right? But you can see there's Fibonacci, support resistance, trend lines, breakouts, Bollinger Bands. I could go on and on. Okay, so I'm having some people that aren't and some people that are. Okay, now I have a lot of people that are. Okay, fantastic. Let me ask you another question, folks. When you're using them, do you ever feel like this fellow right here, where sometimes you feel like you're scratching your head? And the reason I say that is it's like, sometimes they seem to work incredibly well. Then all of a sudden, they don't. And it's almost like you feel like you're flipping a coin. And to give you an understanding of what I'm saying, I'm going to test you folks as a group real quick. And I'm going to call out the answers, by the way, so that you know what the group is saying. Let's do some analysis on Cisco Systems, just for a second. Look at the chart, and I'll explain what we're looking at. We've got a couple of moving averages up there. We also have Bollinger Bands, as well as the Ichimoku Cloud. That's in the top region. Now, beneath that, I've got MACD, stochastics, volume, and RSI. Folks, look at this chart for a moment. What do you think this is about to do? Is it going to go up or down or sideways? Give me a feel for that. Take a gander at this and just tell me, up, down, or sideways. What do you think? Okay, now Rich is saying up. Thank you, Lamar, I have your number. Let's see, Henderson's saying down. Anthony's saying up. Tim is saying up. Let's see, they're coming in. It's hard for me to lock in on them. Munira up. Thomas sideways. Darwin down, Sal sideways, Sergio sideways, Craig sideways. We got Pierre up, Rajendra up, Susan down, Dawn is up. Okay, fantastic. So folks, we're all across the board and they're still coming in. I was calling out your name so that you'd know that I'm listening to you and this is real, right? We're taking a real survey here. So we're not sure what this is gonna do yet. Let me explain why, but I wanna ask a bigger question. And don't be embarrassed, but is anyone in the room, maybe for some of you newer traders, anyone confused by what they're looking at right now? Do you feel like maybe you're suffering a little analysis paralysis? There's just a little too much information on the screen. Okay, Munira's saying, yeah, okay, a lot of you are. Folks, let me explain why you should be confused by what you're looking at. You see, as a trained professional, I understand how to interpret these indicators, but I can assure you they're not all in agreement. In fact, they're contradicting one another. We're gonna start the day off with a healthy warning. If you're using these indicators, I'm not gonna fault you for using them, but be warned. These things can hurt you, and let me explain why. And before you laugh me out of the room, I'm gonna explain what these indicators are doing and what they're not doing. And then you can make a choice yourself on whether you wanna continue to use them. But I wanna start with a question because we're analyzing Cisco right now, and Cisco Systems is a technology company. Just if you can think of any other tradable asset or security that could have an impact on Cisco Systems right now, just give me a yes in your questions box. You don't even need to name what it is, but if you can think of something and you're like, you know what, I'm sure this is impacting Cisco, just head over there and give me a yes or a Y. I'll give you a moment to think about that just for a second. And this is an important point I'm about to make, by the way. All right, I'm getting a lot of yeses rolling in that right now. Here's my question for you folks. Regardless of what it is you're thinking about, right? Whatever's in the front of your mind that you're thinking about that's driving Cisco, are these indicators studying what you're thinking about? Or are they just looking at Cisco by themselves? You see, the reality is these things are not paying attention to any of the things that are driving Cisco. In fact, these indicators are only looking at Cisco Systems in complete and utter isolation. There's a disconnect there. And here's why I say this. We know the markets are global. We know that there are a variety of things that are driving and impacting Cisco, yet these indicators are ignoring that. Now, if that's not bad enough, let me explain what these indicators actually are doing. They're just looking backwards in time. These are looking back at Cisco's past price action. And because of that, that means these are lagging indicators, which means, folks, if you're trying to improve your timing and you're primarily relying on these are actually the culprits of what's causing it. You see, if you have a technical indicator, but it always lags because it needs price action from the past, it's never going to be able to forecast anything. Now, I use a silly analogy here, but a lot of people get it. I mean, we would never take a trip to a new destination that we've never been to and rely on a broken GPS that's giving us turning directions after we already passed the exit. But you see, that's what happens here with these indicators because they're lagging. In order for these indicators to even give us a buy or sell signal, the stock has to move in that direction first. Can anyone see the problem with that? And this is what causes the timing issues. So I'm going to show you a way where you can fix that. And we're going to talk about a repeatable pattern right now. So you should see a blue screen in front of you. Let me explain what you're looking at, which is nothing at the moment, but what you're going to be looking at. What I'm going to introduce you to are some patented indicators that are exclusive to VantagePoint. No one else on the planet has them. They look incredibly simple. Do not confuse the simplicity with what I'm going to share with you. Do not confuse the how simple it looks as this just being another simple tool, because I can assure you what's taking place beneath the surface, the math, if you will, the algorithms, the artificial intelligence is world class. So one other thing I want to point out on what I'm about to share with you, what I'm going to show you, these are not just looking at something like Cisco Systems in isolation. What they're doing is they're looking at both the stock that we're questioning and they're focused on the top 31 markets that have been mathematically and scientifically proven to drive it. So what we've done is we started paying attention to what is important, which are those markets that are driving something like Cisco Systems. So let me introduce them to you. Here's the first one. It's called a predicted moving average. Notice I snuck a word in that you never hear, generally speaking. I said predicted, and it's the blue line right here. So instead of just taking something like a simple moving average that looks backwards in time at an individual stock, what we've done is we re-engineered, reformulated a simple moving average, and we shaved off some of the more recent data points. And what we did is we turned to those top 31 markets and we extracted data from those markets. We put it into the moving average, and then we adjusted the weighting. And what that allows us to do, folks, is to anticipate or predict ahead of time before a trend is about to move up or down. Let me explain how you interpret it. This blue line that you see on the screen, if that blue line crosses above the black line, that is the artificial intelligence indicating that a bullish trend is expected to take place. Now, if the blue line crosses beneath the black line, that is the artificial intelligence indicating one of two things. It's saying the trend is over regardless, but it could also be suggesting that the trend is expected to go down. I'll show you how to determine the difference when we get into the software. So step number one, we just want to be able to identify the blue line crossing. Here's step number two. It's called a predicted neural index, and it's a very sensitive indicator, but what it is doing very specifically is it is indicating whether we should expect strength or weakness in the trend over the next couple of days. And it's easy to understand. See, when that bar turns green, expect strength for the next couple of days. When that bar turns red, expect weakness, okay? So that's the second one. Now, number three, we've got to talk about momentum. These are called predicted differences, and what they are doing is they are forecasting momentum. So there's three lines on the screen. You'll see that there's a teal, a pink, and a navy blue line. That teal colored line is a 1-day momentum forecast. The pink is a 2-day and the navy blue is a 3-day. Here's how you interpret these, folks. If these lines are sloping up and you're in a bullish trend, expect the momentum to increase. The more aggressive the angle or the slope, the more momentum you can expect to see over the next 1, 2, and 3 days based on the indicators. If you're in a bullish trend and they slope down, expect the momentum to decrease. Now I'm going to give you one final one, and it's called the gray predictive candle. This is two indicators in one, but what this is doing is it is showing you what the next day's anticipated trading range should be. Think about that for a second, folks. Regardless of whether you day trade, you swing trade, you position trade, if you knew what the next day had in store for you, but you knew that with a high degree of certainty and you had that a day ahead of time, imagine how much better your fills were going to be. First of all, you'd be buying whatever it is you're trading at the right prices. But more importantly, you can visually look at this and know whether something is forecasted to move higher the next day or lower, because you can visually see the forecast. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the software now. And what we're going to be looking for is total confirmation on these three indicators. So what we're going to look for is for a bullish trend, we're first going to identify when the blue line crosses above the black line. Then we're going to drop down to this bar and make sure that it's green at that point in time. Then we're going to look at these lines on the bottom. And if all of these lines are sloping up, that is the only time we would consider taking a trade, because that's identifying the beginning of a trend. All right, so if you followed along so far, we're going to go into the software now and do some real analysis. Okay, trade from the right, and I'm looking over, and I apologize, folks, I'm looking over on the questions as well, just to make sure that I haven't ignored anyone or missed anyone, so it looks like we're good to go. All right, let me grab my drawing tool again. All right, so here's what we're looking for, folks. The blue line crosses above the black line. That's our first indication that, hey, this is forecasted to move in an upward trend, right? But we need to make sure it's going to continue moving in that direction, because one day does not make a trend. So step number two is going to be right here. This bar on the bottom is now green. Now, folks, when that bar turns green, remember what I said, that means expect strength over the next couple of days in the trend. So clearly, we should expect it to continue. But we want to get into trends that have momentum as well. And you'll notice right here, all these lines are now sloping up. Folks, that is the three-step process that we're looking for to identify when something is about to move. I'm going to show it to you again. This one's a little harder to see, but it's right here. That's when the blue line crossed above the black line. And then look down here. This bar is green, and then finally, look at these lines. And then you'll notice blue line crosses above, neural index turns green, all of the differences are pointing up, and the stock rallies. Okay, now, so if we know what we're looking for to identify, upward possibilities, when do we get out of these things? Very easy, and I'll give you a simple rule. Let's see, someone's saying, they're having an issue. They're gonna have to reboot their, okay, so I'll let the moderators take care of that. Bear with me, guys. I thought I had a question and I'm talking out loud. So let me go ahead and erase these drawings. This is what we're gonna be looking for when it's time to get out of a position. It's simple. If the blue line crosses that black line, the trend's over. So there's no reason to stay in a trend, because what happens is if you're in something that's trendless, it's gonna consolidate and bounce around, right? Or it could move down. Now, for those of you that like to trade options and you like to short stocks, clearly there is another opportunity if you can identify a bearish trend. So let me show you how to do that with the software. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna do the opposite of what we were looking to accomplish when we're buying something, all right? And what I mean by that is we're gonna identify the blue line crossing to the downside. Now we're gonna look at this bar on here and it's red. That means weakness. Then we're gonna look at these momentum indicators and see how all of them are sloping down. That means we could expect that negative momentum to pick up, and look at what happens to the stock. It falls. Now, a couple of finer points, and this is gonna be really important. The blue line at any time can get real close to the black line. It can even touch it like it is right here. But unless it actually crosses, unless you see the shading between the lines turn color, there's no sense in getting out of the trend. What you're gonna do is you're simply gonna tighten up your stop losses, but don't get shaken out. So for those of you that are getting out of your trades too soon, right? You're getting out and you have this early exit issue because you lack confidence. I think what's going on there is oftentimes you're afraid that you're gonna give that money back if you get out too late, so you jump out too soon. But I'll give you an example of how that hurts you. And I want you to pay attention to your screen for a moment, because a lot of you are gonna be able to relate with this. Let's say, hypothetically, you got lucky and you stumbled across an opportunity like this one. We're looking at Groupon, and you bought it right here where I made this circle, right? And then you're in it for a couple of days, it starts to go up, and then all of a sudden it just gaps up, right? And now you're feeling really good about the trade because you're making money. But then at this point, it starts to sell off. Day by day, you're getting more nervous, more nervous, more nervous, and then you go, you know what? I don't want to lose all this money. I'm going to take the money and run. So you sell it right there, right? Only to find that the next day or two, it just continues to climb. Is that happening to anyone out in the room right now? Where, you know, you're a little nervous because, and I'm not asking you to make fun of you, I'm asking because if this is happening, I can show you how to stop that. You know, you're getting out of these positions because you cannot trust what you're looking at, right? You're not sure if you're gonna end up giving the profit back. And you know, I worked with some traders that would always tell me, they'd say, you know what, you can't go broke taking a profit. Folks, that is not true. Because if you get blindsided by one trade and you've been minimizing your other trades to the upside, it can take back all the money you've made in one fell swoop. But this is a way to fix that. So again, when that blue line, even when it starts to go into the black line, unless it actually crosses it, stay in the trade, because it makes so much more of a difference. Now, let me explain why this is so powerful. Now that you know what we're looking at, and then we'll look at several examples, and I'll show you the SPY, because that's what everyone wants to see, right? So let me grab my drawing tool for just a moment. Actually, I don't need that. Here, watch this, folks. I'm gonna go just from cross to cross to keep the math simple, right? It's just so you guys have a reference point. You're all gonna get filled at different points in time, and I realize this. But if I just go from where the blue line crosses up to where the blue line crosses down, if you were to take trades on those days, just going long and then exiting, look at this. In 28 days, you could have made 108% on your money. Now, I know we all trade with various different sized accounts, right? But even if you're only trading $1,000 in that position, that's a $1,000 profit in 28 days. If you're trading with a $10,000 position, that's a $10,000 profit, folks. Look at it again. Watch this. It happened again right here. Now, this one isn't as big, and you're going to notice that all the trends are going to be different, right? They're all very unique in their own way. But in 20 days, there's a 58% profit. That's a $580 profit on a $1,000 trade. Now, let's talk about the future for just a second, because you'll notice this trend is still moving. So for those of you that have that early exit, you can literally look at the screen and say, well, wait, is the blue line above the black line? Yes, it is. This is still a bullish trend. No sense in getting out of this. See, you may look at this in another chart and start second guessing, thinking, you know what, I better get out of this. But according to VantagePoint, you know, all signals are a go here. Why? Because the blue line's above the black line. This bar is green, meaning expect continued strength over the next couple of days. And 2 of the 3 momentum indicators are pointing up. Now, see how that teal colored line is pointing down? All that's suggesting is that over the next day, the next trading day, not to expect this thing to really have any momentum. In fact, the momentum is decreasing. That's also why this gray candle here that's giving you the next day's trading range, that's why it's not higher. So it's showing you, it looks like we're gonna have a, basically the same exact activity that we had the previous day. All right, so let me run you through some examples real quick so that you can see this. And by the way, I wanna point one other thing out, folks, because it's so important. A lot of indicators out there. We see this first trade up 108%. I talked about, fixing that early exit situation from a timing standpoint. Let me address the people that are getting out too late, because that's a bigger problem. Watch this. I'll do this again. We'll take a line from basically right, oh, I don't want the same one. We'll take a line from basically the same point though. And what I want to show you is what happens if you miss your exit, because this is so critical. As soon as I can get my mouse to cooperate, there we go. So here's the difference. Let's say that you had the opportunity and you were up 100% on your money, but you missed your exit. And then all of a sudden this day hits you, this day hits you, this day hits you, and you're like, you know what? I think I need to get out here. Look at how much money you're giving back. Because watch this, folks. Let me see if I can get this to pull down for you. Here we go. See how the profit's coming down drastically now? Can you guys see this? So look at this, just by missing the exit, not knowing when to get out, I was up 100%, now I'm only up 76%. But guess what? If I really miss the exit, what if my indicators don't tell me it's time to get out until here? Now I have something where I'm making half as much money because I didn't know when to get out. So these timing issues are plaguing us from various different corners, and a lot of people don't know how to deal with that. What I'm telling you is these indicators, as simple as they look, folks, the engineering and the math that's taking place beneath the surface is world-class. And the reason these are so incredibly accurate is because the software is focused on what's driving the markets to begin with. Now, let's go look at AMAT for just a moment. Are we going to see real-time trade with this predictable indicator like Apple? Is the market, I know the market, what, half day today? We're looking at what's forecasted for today, guys. You're actually looking at it. This gray bar, this is the forecast. Notice if I click on this, see the date right here, how it says 11/27? See that gray candle? That is today's forecast for this stock. It's giving us the low and the high right there. So you're looking at real time. Let me move on to applied materials. All right, watch this, folks, same pattern. The blue line has just crossed above the black line. The neural index has turned green. All the lines are pointing up, and look what takes place. Watch this. All of a sudden, stock rallies. Now, in this move, 17 days, you could have been up 37%. But I want you to notice something, because every time this is taking place, see, look at this. The blue line crosses beneath the black line. For those of you that are getting out too late, notice how the software is giving you a heads up that something is about to reverse. And you're only going to take trades when you see these repeatable patterns. Let me move on to flowers, and then I want to jump into the SPY, because that's usually what everyone wants to see. It's the fan favorite. All right, so with flowers, watch this. Again, here's this repeatable pattern. First of all, notice when it started to fall. If I get right on that cross, see how the blue line crossed beneath the black line? The neural index is now red. All the lines are sloping down, and look at what happens to this thing. It gets hit pretty hard. Let me see what it actually did. Down 23% in 13 days, folks. For you options traders, hopefully you're starting to see the value that this can bring to the table by being able to anticipate these trends ahead of time instead of responding to them after the fact, because that's probably what your tools are doing. They're giving you buy and sell information, but they're only doing it after something already reverses. Folks, that doesn't cut it today. I mean, if you want to fix these timing problems, you have to get ahead of the movement. You can't react to the movement. You've got to be able to anticipate it, all right? So now you'll see here in the second trade, it's up over 20%. We can go here on 1020 and look, it falls again. And unfortunately, this is a trader's life, right? Some people are just on the wrong side of the trades and they feel like they're just getting whipsawed. But you can take advantage of all these ebbs and flows that are taking place here. Look at the profits, folks. They're starting to add up on the top, and we're only looking within a 3-month period. Look at this. Here's another one, 15%. So if let me get my calculator out. I'm just curious. This is one stock, right? Let's say we just went long and short. You're up 23% on the first one, 20% on the second one, 27% on the third one, 15% on the fourth one. Folks, that's 85% in 3 months. Just knowing when to get in and when to get out without having to guess, all right? Now, let's go to the SPY. I see some questions that are coming in. Hold on just one moment. Okay, here's SPY, folks. If this doesn't grab your attention, nothing will. I'm gonna go backwards for just a moment. Let's see if on SPY, if VantagePoint was able to forecast the downturn in the market. Anyone interested in seeing that? Want to see just how accurate this thing was? Because COVID destroyed a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of drawdown in the markets. Okay, I'm getting a lot of yeses. Let's go do it. Watch this. Now, the chart is obviously a little smaller, but I'll describe what you're seeing, and I'll use my crosshairs so that you guys can see. Look at this, folks. On my crosshairs, on 221, the blue line crossed beneath the black line. The neural index turned red. All of these lines sloped down. And we all know the story. The SPY just got hammered, right? But then look right here. On 325, the opposite happened. All at the same time. The blue line crossed above, the neural index turned green, all the lines pointed up, and we were off to the races. Now, I want you to notice something. Every time we see these little sell-offs, see this? See how everything is lining up, indicating that that was going to take place? You can see it again right here. All of the indicators are saying, hey, get out of this thing, it's gonna go down. We even saw it back here. You see that? But now, you'll notice right here at this point in time, on 11/4, the opposite happened, and it gave us this bullish trend before the SPY started moving. So look at this, just in the last 16 days, this individual market's up almost 8%. Folks, you know, on a $10,000 trade, you know, it's 800 bucks, but if you're trading options on SPY, it's a game changer. Now, if you want the current forecast, I'm happy to show it to you. Watch this. Notice how the blue line is still above the black line. The neural index is green. All these lines are pointing up. And you'll notice that gray candle, that phantom candle, that's not making lower lows and lower highs. It's actually making higher lows and higher highs. Can everyone see that? So that's, oops, I got a wrong screen up here. Sorry about that, folks. So again, but the key here is you're getting this information so much sooner than you're gonna get it anywhere else. And why? It's because the software is paying attention to what's driving this. Now, I'm gonna go back to, we'll go to even Groupon for just a moment. I wanna make sure at this point doesn't get lost on you, and I'm managing my time here. So let's go to GRPN. And what I wanna do, folks, is I wanna show you what's driving these stocks. Watch this. It's gonna be completely different than Southwest. Everyone's different. Look at this. So we're looking at Groupon in the center right here. Look at all the various things that are being looked at and analyzed to produce that highly accurate forecast. World Fuel Services, Health Peak Properties. I mean, I would never think to analyze any of this stuff if I were looking at Groupon, would you? Yet this is what's baked into the indicators, folks. And that's the interesting point is, you know, when you start realizing, that's why I warned you. I said, look, it's gonna look so simple. The indicators look so incredibly simple, but they do by design. You see, Lou Mendelson spent a little over $10 million just in the last 10 years refining the software so that I could take something just like this and teach it to a 15-year-old, where it's just not complicated. So don't let the simplicity confuse you into thinking that this is like everything else out there, because it's not. The reason this blue line is so accurate, the reason this bar and these momentum indicators and this gray candle are so accurate is they're not focused on the stock by itself. They are paying attention to what is driving it, okay? Key point. Now I want to introduce you to someone real quick because he does a better job at this than I do sometimes. He's one of our customers. I want you to meet Billy. Look at what he says up here. He goes, I started out in the stock market 7 years ago. Over time, I've lost a good deal of money. I hope that's no one in this room. I genuinely mean that. But if it is, pay attention because he shares some very powerful advice here. He goes, with the help of VantagePoint, I'm turning my luck around. He goes, yes, you're going to have down days, but there are going to be many more up days. And if you are patient and trust the indicators within VantagePoint to make smart trades, you'll be successful and make money. He goes on to say, my advice to traders would be to buy VantagePoint. Don't get too greedy or anxious. And this is the key part, folks. Don't get too greedy or anxious. Wait until VantagePoint indicates a good buy or sell, and you'll make money. What he's saying is Wait until all the indicators are in agreement. That's when you're going to have the highest probability of success. And the reason that's so important is you got to understand each one of those indicators that I've just shared with you, they are all looking at different data points in those top 31 markets. And when they all come together and they all arrive at the same conclusion, it's highly unlikely they're all going to be wrong at the same time, okay? Dawn, I have your phone number, thank you, by the way. Using this for stocks and options, absolutely. Yeah, for you options traders, listen, timing and direction is everything. Because once you have the timing, the direction, and you can figure out the momentum, then you can choose the most appropriate strategy, right? Look at what Alfred says. Speaking of options, he's an options trader. He goes, when I heard about VantagePoint, I was skeptical. After my second training session, I bought 3 different options. All 3 were closed in 5 days. Folks, he wasn't used to results like that because the stuff that he had done in the past wasn't working for him. And look at why he's trading, and I love this, because everyone trades for different reasons. He goes, my efforts are to continue funding a trust for education for my grandchildren and their children. Wow, what a job I can do now. So for those of you that have an interest, it's Black Friday, by the way. We have an amazing Black Friday special. For those of you who have an interest in using the technology, what I would suggest is head over to your questions box and just drop in your first name, your telephone number, and we'll have someone from our team reach out to you. Let me show you what we put together for you. I think you'll really like this. We're going to give everyone that wants to come on board access to VantagePoint on a 1-year subscription basis. You'll have the software for an entire year. Now, for the first 3 weeks, we're going to give you all-inclusive access, which means you'll get every single thing we forecast for, the entire market tree, all the stocks, futures, commodities, ETFs, currencies, you'll get it all. What we're going to ask, though, is that during the first 3 weeks while you're evaluating it, we want you to settle on either an individual market of your choosing or an individual sector. And then you would have all of the stocks that were in that sector that you chose, okay? So every day you're gonna get these highly accurate forecasts. They're right on your computer. Now, we're also gonna give you the quick start guide. This is really neat because this contains everything you need to get the software up and running today. For those of you that come on board today, you're actually gonna be able to install this. You'll be able to play with the tool all weekend. Now, from a training standpoint, we're going to give you access to VantagePoint University as well, which includes 20 on-demand video modules that you can play day or night, and you can learn the software at your own speed. But we're also going to give you a software coach. And we do this because we want to make sure that we're giving you as much ammunition and as much education, to make sure that you're using the tool correctly. I don't like to learn in a group environment. I prefer one-on-one, and that's precisely what the coaching's for. And the reason we're giving all of this to you is I would love it if I could turn each and every person into the guy I'm about to introduce you to. This is Sam. Folks, he's a real person, real results. These are not my words. These are Sam's words. Look at what he says. I started trading VantagePoint with real money 6 months ago, and my account has tripled. Now, folks, don't misunderstand me. I'm not into hype. I know a lot of VantagePoint customers. I've seen much better reviews than this. Don't think this is the best, because it's not. But also, I'm not suggesting that you're going to go out and triple your account, right? So we all trade with different dollar amounts, different leverage. We have different risks that we take. But he did it, and he's a smart guy, right? He used to be a pharmacist. Now he's retired. That's not what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. He was trading, and he couldn't make any money, and then he turned everything around. But the reason he was able to do that is he stopped looking backwards, trying to second guess the market. He stopped reacting to what was happening, and he started being proactive. Now, a moment ago, 50 minutes ago, I promised you I'd teach you how to look at a stock and within 5 seconds know whether it was forecasted to go up or down. This will be my last hurrah, if you will. I want to test that right now to make sure I did a good job for you. Folks, I'm going to show this to you in VantagePoint, and I'm going to expand the indicators and call them out. And then once I do that, tell me what you think this thing's going to do now. So let's look at it in VantagePoint. Let me expand it. Blue line's now crossing the black line. The neural index is turning red. All the lines are pointing down. Folks, what's this about to do? Go to your questions box. Is this about to go up or down? What do you think? Yeah, if everyone could participate, we'll just have a little fun. And listen, there's no harm, no foul, right? Yeah, someone's saying take profit. A lot of people are saying down. Yeah. Now, we got to find out if we're right, though, right? Because this is what you're doing as a trader anyways. You're looking at information and you're deciding, hey, should I make a trade based on what I see? Well, if this was easy for you to interpret, let's see what actually took place. Here we go. Here's a little time lapse. Watch this, folks. Look at that. You knew ahead of time that this thing was about to go down. with an amazing degree of accuracy. And also, you were confident about it. There was no, maybe it'll go up, maybe it'll go down, maybe we're flipping a coin. The moment those indicators fired off like that, you went, what? Wait a second, based on what I just learned, the artificial intelligence is saying this is gonna go down, and that's exactly what happened. I could have shown you something that had a bigger drawdown, much bigger drawdown, but I didn't, and here's why. Isn't this what we deal with every day? We miss our exit a little here, we miss it there. We're giving back way too much money. If you could stop giving back all that money and be able to anticipate this stuff before it took place, man, can you imagine what would be in your account? So that's what this is about. So let me give you the, we have the Black Friday special for you. You're gonna love this. You're gonna save a lot of money. I'm gonna show you the retail price, and then I'm gonna give you the discounted rate. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you a software license with one sector valued at $2,900 by itself. Then we're gonna give you unlimited access to VantagePoint University valued at $995. Then the Quick Start Guide and resources valued at $495. And finally, 6 months of unlimited expert coaching valued at $1,295. So this package normally retails for $5,685. For being in the training session with us today, we're gonna let you come on board for only $1,497. Folks, that literally lets you save almost, what is that, $4,200 instantly? So if you like it, if you're interested in it, head over to your questions box, just type in your name and phone number, and as I said, I'll have one of our software experts reach out to you. They can give you additional information. So give me just one moment. Let's see, everything we looked at, someone's saying, let's look at one for today, please. We just did, I actually just showed you the SPY as well. Everything that we looked at, those were showing you today's forecast with the gray candle. So, okay, Henry, I have your number, thank you so much. Jeff, I have you. David, thank you so much, and I'll make sure someone reaches out to you when we're done. And I know you guys are probably gonna be busy because there's more webinars coming up. Robin, I have you as well. So again, folks, if this is something that you wanna learn more about or you'd like to take advantage of the Black Friday special, highly encourage you, drop your name and phone number in. And here's the reality. You know, we'll guide you, we'll teach you everything you need to know about the software, but there's one thing I need you to write down, and I believe I have exactly 1 hour. I've got about 2 minutes left because I think we started on my end at around 9:03. Let me see if I can get through this in the next 1 minute though. Folks, there's a $35 subscription that you'll need for a data feed. We're not a data company, but we've contracted with a company called Traders Only. So make sure you write that down. That is the only ongoing charge that you would have, okay? It's $35 for data. Other than that, there are no hidden fees out there. And we're doing one better for you. Actually, I'm gonna skip through these because I don't have time. I was gonna show you what all of the professionals were saying, but I don't have time and you don't have it either. So I wanna offer one other thing. For those of you that are actually coming on board, we're gonna be giving you guys a fast action bonus as well, all right? And what that means is, if you want us to, we have the ability to remote into the software, remote into your computer, do a download of the software for you. We can even hook up the data, and then we'll do a customized training session, one-on-one with you, right out of the gates. Then we'll introduce you to your software coach. So that's something we normally charge $295 for. However, just for being here today, we're giving it away for free. If you want that, here's how you get it now, because not everyone will get it. But if that's something that appeals to you, type in just your first name. If you've already put your number in, type in your first name and type in the words fast action. That's what it is. It's a fast action bonus, okay? And now I realize I've got about 60 seconds left before the hook comes out. So let me close by saying this. I see a lot of numbers that are still coming in. For those of you that want to trade more than one sector, you have additional markets, because it's Black Friday, we have incredible deals going on right now. Just being in the webinar, everyone gets 30% off. But right now, this very second, you can actually get all of the stock sectors for 50% off on a lifetime basis. So if you want some information on lifetime pricing, just put your first name in and type in lifetime. And then when our software experts reach out to you, they'll be able to give you all the different pricing models. And then you guys choose what's good for you. But it doesn't really matter. You can start with the $14.97, go make some money with the tool first. Remember, we're gonna unlock everything for the first 21 days, then come back and maybe reinvest some of your profit. So with that said, folks, I am actually out of time. I think I'm right on time. What I'm gonna do is I am going to hush up now. I'll give you one last opportunity to go ahead and drop names and phone numbers in. And as I said, I'll make sure that we have someone reach out to you the moment we're done. So with that said, folks, thank you so much. This is gonna be an amazing day. Love Black Friday. I love the holidays. So hopefully all of you are staying safe, you're staying healthy, and most importantly, you're staying profitable. So if you put your number in, we will reach out to you. And for those of you that did not and want to learn more, you can always go over to VantagePointSoftware.com. Okay, so thank you so much, folks. This is Eric. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks for having me. Have a great day out there.